Good day and welcome to this video. I'm about to start a new painting and I'm creating a scene here with a lot of depth using these two photographic references of the beautiful Hex River Valley. I am going to combine these two photographs and fuse it into one beautiful composition, together with some artistic license. First of all, let's go through our colors that we are going to be using for this painting. Titanium white, raw sienna, terre verte green, French ultramarine, Van Dyke brown, buff titanium, cobalt violet, cadmium orange, primary magenta, violet gray, cobalt blue, blue-grey, cerulean blue, and lemon yellow. The process begins with a thumbnail sketch, and once I'm happy with the compositional design of the sketch, I start transferring the design to my canvas using a synthetic hair brush, some Van Dyke brown paint, and a bit of solvent medium. I would start with the cerulean and the cobalt blue and adding to that a lot of blue-grey to make the color lighter. And that would be the color I would use for the blue of my sky there. Blocking in large shapes using a flat, broad, synthetic hair brush. And then I would start putting in the lighter colors for the sky, using a little bit of buff titanium mixed in with a bit of violet gray and some blue gray. And generally, I would just start with a three phase approach, starting with large, big shapes for the block in, and then secondly, going over starting to model the shapes in a more sophisticated manner, and then gradually end up by our third and final phase, which would be to start putting in the details and the nuances that the picture requires. When it comes to creating a painting with depth, one needs to understand color temperature. And by using cooler colors in the distance and then gradually and slowly building up into warmer and ever more darker values, we are able to create this illusion of depth. But not only do we need to understand this, but also we need to understand our sense of perspective and how things vanish the further they go away in the picture. You see that thin beam of light with that cream color at the bottom of the mountains. That thin beam of light really helps me to indicate the depth which I wish to show into this picture. And it's a very cool, soft light, yet just a little bit of warmth, just enough to contrast it between the mountains. As a opposed to the foreground, we can now see here that we are starting to model darker, and using a lovely angled brush there, I am brushing in all those darker colors using terra verte green and a little bit of lemon yellow and some primary magenta and cobalt violet in those colors. And then you will notice I will use more of a cadmium orange with buff titanium mixed into it and some Van Dyke brown for all that deep dark orange that I'm looking for. Here we can see the block in with its basic rough edged sketched like appearance, and we can see these brush marks are very rough, and from that we are able to work our refinement. So when we start modeling, the picture surface is held up by those initial big rough brush strokes from the block-in phase and gives me an indication as to how I should model my shapes from here onwards. We got to set things up in the beginning by creating the brush strokes necessary to create the right textures, the floating feeling of the clouds, the cold, hard, angular feel of those mountains, right through to the foreground with those coarse, rugged bushes that randomly grow in this region. So each layer carries the next, together with creating a balance of softer, leaner and colder paint in the distance to warmer, harder and coarser and thicker textures in the middle ground and foreground. So any reference I use is only a guideline and serves as a guide to my inspiration. And as an artist, you should never copy from nature directly. Your painting should be built on the elements you wish to express, and even by adding in certain elements, diminishing other elements, and bringing out other elements, we can say that we are reaching a higher form of expression in our work. Nature becomes the source of the artist's inspiration, rather than a just mere copying of what we see. So I went about taking artistic liberty and added the farmhouse in front of the mass of trees on the right, creating a focal point and a tonal climax where the darkest darks and lightest lights meet. I am adding in some highlights on the foothills of those brooding mountains, and I am using some violet grey mixed with some cadmium orange for that, just to bring them out of the shadowy depths of the higher peaks covered by the clouds, adding to that nuanced depth I wish to bring out in the painting. And I am just refining some of the edges to bring clarity to my design. I want to take a moment to talk about composition. Composition is the backbone of your painting. It holds up the structure and makes the work more engaging to look at. I consider composition probably as the most important aspect of the creative process, and also the most exciting. In this painting, I made use of an S armature, or a Z armature as it's also known as. To bring about structure, we can see the clouds on the left sloping down, where we are invited to look at those mountains contrasting. And then the eye is caught up looking at those trees, where the focal point climaxes with a farmhouse that leads us further down the middle ground, where I deliberately compress that part of the painting, creating much needed depth. Our eye then wanders off to the left again, and we are invited to look at the shrubs and bushes in the foreground. Then finally, when it comes down to the final phase of the painting, we start bringing everything together in the painting, making the final tweaks in order for the artwork to feel cohesive. At this stage, we must consider and be thoughtful, because here we can very easily go overboard and ruin all the hard work we did in the beginning. So I urge, be thoughtful with those details. Not everything needs to be handled with equal amounts of detail. Leave the more detail for the grasses in the foreground in order to get a feeling of recedence and depth. But let the rest of the picture rest on the actual design elements of the painting. And let the armature of the painting help you to engage your eyes into this work. With that, I would like to say thank you for watching till the end. Until next time, when we meet again, have a wonderful day.